Hi, so here I have Kirsty and Ella Hansford, two from one of our member families with Ella has ring 20. Ella's done us a super picture. Show us your super picture there, Ella. She's been being really creative here today. And Kirsty, would you like to share with us your journey with Ella so far with ring 20?
So with ring 20, so Ella is now 12. She was diagnosed with epilepsy when she was 6. Drugs at that time for maybe 5 years. They stabilised these seizures. And then this June last year, she started to have multiple seizures again, increased frequency, and she was having up to 80 seizures a day. At that point, she was admitted to Alderhay Children's Hospital. And that was in August last year. They couldn't stabilise the seizures. They didn't know what was wrong. They used a cocktail of anti-epileptic drugs, and there was just seemed to be no stopping the seizures. They were lasting up to 30 minutes at a time. She would be ploughed with rescue remedy, and for 2 months literally she was just laying in the bed, and we were told that we're not too sure what we can do for Ella, and this could be actually the state that Ella was going to be in for the rest of her life.
So you were being told at that time that Ella might be in a comatose state for the rest of her life. That must have been really frightening.
100% right. It was unbelievable to go from a child that had been in a mainstream primary school. She should have started high school in the September following the admission in the August, and at that point she was just laying in a hospital bed. So it was unbelievably distressful, and as a family we just didn't know what to do.
And I was there for 3 months.
And how did you find it? I suppose you weren't aware of some of that time.
At first I couldn't go downstairs, but soon later I did.
Yeah.
You're a really brave young lady.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Ella did eventually come out of hospital, so they got some level of control that Ella could come home, what happened then?
So go in the November, if we just go back to, I think because the pattern of seizures, one of the doctors had actually suggested, let's do the diagnoses for test for ring chromosome 20, and it was in the November that she was diagnosed with ring chromosome 20.
So from her first seizure to the actual diagnosis of ring 20, how long was that? How many years?
Gosh, 6 years.
Right.
Yep, 6 years. So she was discharged on the ketogenic diet. So we went home in the December. She was actually readmitted because the ketogenic diet didn't work with Ella. She became very...
I wasn't allowed anything. I could just have
You were really high fat food to obviously the brain activity to stop the brain activity to stop the seizures. And obviously it was a whirlwind for our family. It was something new to our family. She was readmitted, and then so she was discharged. Then we eventually weaned her off the ketogenic diet just because it wasn't really having the impact that we could see. So she eventually started school in January. So she started mainstream school in the January, and that was year 7, so it was the first year of high school. It went downhill till about April or May time with school.
And so was Ella in school full time, or was she able to be?
No, it was a phased return from January. It was maybe 1 hour a day, 2 hours a day. I think up until March or April, she was doing just the odd hour here or there.
And so how much schooling did Ella miss?
Gosh, she's virtually missed the whole of year 7. So even when she went back to school on a full timetable, she was falling asleep. So we had a battle with the school because she was falling asleep in school. We were being told it was a fire hazard, that she wasn't allowed to sleep in school. At that point, I think there was absolutely lack of understanding of ring chromosome 20. They just saw Ella, they did a psychological assessment on Ella, and they just put it down to Ella being a child with epilepsy that had missed a lot of school. And it was only when we had a full-on clinical assessment at Alderhay Children's Hospital, Ella spent maybe 6 hours with her, full-on one-to-one assessment, that the true nature of the actual diagnosis has come out. The fact that Ella, while she's 12, she's regressed back to a 6-year-old, and the fact that the school need to be adapting Ella's life to school, not the other way around. So Ella has to, if she wants to go to sleep, she has to go to sleep. She needs a reduced curriculum, she has to have a reduced curriculum. So heart-wrenchingly, we've had discussions with the school. I think the report has opened the school's eyes to the fact that it isn't just a case of Ella having epilepsy and she's missed some school. It's a case, this is a life-changing thing for Ella that we all need to adapt to. The school have since said that they can't cater for Ella's needs, and they have advised us that mainstream school is not going to be an option for Ella moving forward.
So you've got a whole change ahead of you again.
Yep.
And a very difficult period and lack of support. And how are you doing now, Ella? How many seizures a day is Ella having typically now?
Maybe
just once a day.
Yeah, maybe 2 or 3. Less so in the day, more so at night time again. But she's still suffering with an awful lot of.
But it's mostly night.
It is mostly night time, isn't it?
That's why I sleep with the lights on.
Yep, and she's still in mum's bed. We did get the occupational therapist in because she's still having pull-ups on, obviously because she's still weeing, she's still wetting when she's alert, so we know that there is still absolute activity going on 24/7. So it's a massive adjustment to the family. It's had a fundamental impact on my family personally, which, you know, that's just as it is. So thankfully I've got the full support of my parents and the full support of other friends around me. You know, it is a scary time. You know, it's scary for Ella. As you can see, she's a beautiful child. So, you know, it's one thing, you know, but it's like what the future holds for Ella. You know, what do we know? What holds? I just want Ella to be in a place where she's got that little bit of independence. She can go and be in a place where she can thrive with children, like-minded children around her. And that's really all I want for Ella. But I think it's the realisation, especially from a schooling footing, that just because somebody looks, like we were saying before, looks perfectly fine, and she is fine, don't get me wrong, but there's obviously a lot more to Ella than what a school teacher might do or an ed psych might do, you know, so.
Well, thank you both very much for sharing your story with us. It's a very personal story, and that must have been very difficult for you, and you've had an incredibly difficult journey, but hopefully that opens up the understanding and awareness of what this devastating condition can do.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
No, you're
Ella
welcome.
and Kirsty.
You say bye.
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 Bye.